Okay, welcome to Chapter 3, Part 2 of our fun and exciting adventure in our Spanish class. We are going to be moving into the vocabulary for the second part of the chapter, but as you probably noticed when you did your readings for this week, there isn't really a whole lot of vocabulary there. So in today's activity, I am going to review the vocabulary from the first part of the chapter, which is really what the vocabulary part of your next test will focus on. So I want to give you plenty of time to work with it, and then we'll look at some of the new vocabulary. Off we go. Para empezar, vamos a repasar las preguntas personales. Pregunta personal número 1. ¿Cuántas clases tienes? ¿Cuántas clases tienes? The key word here is cuántas. Cuántas means how many. So our answer is tengo however many clases. So I might say tengo dos clases. Pregunta personal número 2. ¿Qué clases tienes? ¿Qué clases tienes? The key word here is qué, which means what. So nuestra respuesta es tengo and some classes. Remember I told you that you were going to need to name at least 3 classes, whether you had to lie or not to do it. So I only have 2 classes, but I will make some up. I will say tengo español, matemáticas, y literatura. It's hard to lie. Okay. Próximo. Pregunta personal número 3. ¿Cuál es tu clase favorita? ¿Cuál es tu clase favorita? I would say, mi clase favorita es español. You can answer telling the truth. Número 5, I think we're on. Nope, this is número 4. Well, whatever. ¿Cómo es tu horario? ¿Cómo es tu horario? Como means how, horario is schedule. So, how's your schedule? You have to put in an adjective that describes it. So you might say, mi horario es fácil, or mi horario es difícil, or mi horario es activo, or mi horario es exigente. One of our new vocabulary words. Anything like that. Y finalmente, the real número 5. ¿En qué año naciste? ¿En qué año naciste? Remember, naciste is the past tense of the verb nacer, to be born. So, in what year were you born? And this is the only one that you don't have to answer in a complete sentence because you don't know the past tense yet. So you can just say en and the year. But remember, you have to write out the words for the year. So I would say en 1966. Okay, continuamos. Vamos a repasar las materias o las clases un poco. Y yo voy a decir una frase y ustedes van a decir si la frase es cierto o falso. Número 1. En la clase de administración de empresas, estudio computadoras. En la clase de administración de empresas, estudio computadoras. ¿Cierto o falso? Falso. Número 2. En la clase de química, tengo un laboratorio. En la clase de química, tengo un laboratorio. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Número 3. En la clase de filosofía, estudio Picasso. En la clase de filosofía, estudio Picasso. ¿Cierto o falso? Falso. Picasso fue artista, no filósofo. Muy bien. Número 4. En la clase de biología, estudio animales. En la clase de biología, estudio animales. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Número 5. En la clase de matemáticas, estudio números. En la clase de matemáticas, estudio números. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Número 6. En la clase de ciencias políticas, estudio relaciones internacionales. En la clase de ciencias políticas, estudio relaciones internacionales. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Próximo. En la clase de comunicaciones, hablo mucho. En la clase de comunicaciones, hablo mucho. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. I talk a lot in communications class. That's believable. Próximo. En la clase de contabilidad, estudio dinero. En la clase de contabilidad, estudio dinero. Cierto. Okay, vamos a continuar. Now, I'm going to ask a question, and you tell me in what class do we do this thing. Número 1. ¿En qué clase aprendo a enseñar? ¿En qué clase aprendo a enseñar? So, in what class? Aprender means to learn. So, in what class do I learn? And remember, enseñar was one of your vocabulary words from last week. It means to teach. So, in what class do I learn to teach? Pedagogía. Número 2. ¿En qué clase aprendo a diseñar? ¿En qué clase aprendo a diseñar? Remember, diseñar isn't one of your vocabulary words, but diseño is. A diseño is a design, so diseñar is to design. What class do I learn to design? Arquitectura. Número 3. ¿En qué clase aprendo a manejar? Remember last week we said that manejar means to manage. So, ¿en qué clase aprendo a manejar? Administración de empresas. Número 4. ¿En qué clase estudio dinero? ¿En qué clase estudio dinero? Could be a couple for this. Contabilidad, accounting, economía, economy, or finanzas, finance. Número 5. ¿En qué clase estudio animales? Stupid spell check did it to me again. Still haven't gotten a video without a spelling error. ¿En qué clase estudio animales with an ES? Could be at least 2. Biología o veterinaria. Próximo. ¿En qué clase estudio números? ¿En qué clase estudio números? Lots for this one. Matemáticas, cálculo, estadística, statistics, certainly. Próximo. ¿En qué clase estudio computadoras? ¿En qué clase estudio computadoras? Informática. Próximo. ¿En qué clase estudio drogas? ¿En qué clase estudio drogas? Medicina. Próximo. ¿En qué clase tengo un laboratorio? ¿En qué clase tengo un laboratorio? Any science class. Química, if you haven't already used biología, you could use that. Física. Okay. ¿En qué clase estudio mapas? ¿En qué clase estudio mapas? Geografía. Próximo. ¿En qué clase practico deportes? ¿En qué clase practico deportes? Educación física. Okay, let me give you a clue here. For the test, when we do test 3, this is how I'm going to test it, because I'm worried that since we're not in class face-to-face and you can't ask me what pictures are, what I'm looking for, that makes it harder for you, more stressful for you. So to test this, rather than using pictures, I'm going to say something like, en qué clase aprendo a enseñar, and you'll have to put pedagogía. Now, the key is going to be you can only use each class once. So if, for example, if I say, en qué clase tengo un laboratorio, and you say química, then, then you can't use química again someplace else. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how you should study for this part of the test. Look back on this activity and other activities to see what sentences I used, what activities I associated with these classes, and that's how you should study. Okay, let's go on. Actividades, vamos a repasar las actividades o las expresiones con tener. Okay. Para empezar, yo voy a decir una frase y ustedes van a decirme si la frase es lógica o no lógica. Número 1. En el verano tengo frío. En el verano tengo frío. ¿Lógica o no lógica? No lógica. I am not cold in the summertime. The key here is that you remember that verano is summer. Número 2. En el invierno tengo calor. En el invierno tengo calor. ¿Lógica o no lógica? No lógica. In the winter, I'm not hot. Número 3. Necesito comer. Tengo hambre. Necesito comer. Tengo hambre. The key here is that you remember comer means to eat and hambre is hungry. ¿Lógica o no lógica? Lógica. Número 4. Necesito beber. Tengo sed. Necesito beber. Tengo sed. ¿Lógica o no lógica? Want a drink? Thirsty? Lógica. Número 5. Son las 11 de la noche. Tengo sueño. Son las 11 de la noche. Tengo sueño. Lógica. Próximo. Miro una película de horror. Tengo miedo. Miro una película de horror. Tengo miedo. Horror movie, fear, lógica. Okay, now let's actually produce these vocabulary words. And here's another test hint for you. For the test, these pictures are pretty clear, and I think there's only like 8 or 9 of them. So I am definitely using these pictures for the test, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you the picture, and I'm going to give you a subject pronoun, and you have to conjugate tener to agree with the subject pronoun, and then fill in the blank with the appropriate like calor or frio or hambre or sed. So you've got to conjugate tener and put in the right expression. So just like this, let's review these. ¿Qué pasa? In this picture, he's hot. So you've got to conjugate tener to go with yo, and you've got to come up with the word for hot. What are you going to say? ¿Qué pasa? Yo tengo calor. Número 2. ¿Qué pasa? Nosotros. Conjugate tener for nosotros, and then come up with a word for being careful. Nosotros tenemos cuidado. Número 3. ¿Qué pasa? Tú. Got to conjugate tener for tú, and then you got to come up with the word for being cold. Tú tienes frío. Próximo. ¿Qué pasa? She's dreaming about that chicken leg. So, conjugate tener to go with ella, and then come up with a word for hungry. Ella tiene hambre. Próximo. She's got that snake right up in her face. So you've got to conjugate tener to go with usted, and then come up with a word for being afraid. Usted tiene miedo. Próximo. ¿Qué pasa? Ellos. You got to conjugate tener to go with ellos, and then they're in a hurry, they missed that bus. Ellos tienen prisa. Próximo. ¿Qué pasa? This little girl knows that 1 + 1 is 2. She's a little old for that to be her only lesson. But you got to conjugate tener with yo, and then you've got to say that she's right. So yo tengo razón. Próximo. She's dreaming about that vase of water. Conjugate tener with ella, and then come up with thirsty. Ella tiene sed. Okay, próximo. He's sleepy. Nosotros tenemos sueño. Okay, that's the last one of these. So this is how I'm going to test it. Got the pictures? You've got to come up with the vocabulary word and conjugate tener to agree with the subject pronoun I give you. Okay, now let's go on to the new vocabulary for the second part of the chapter. You've got 2 sets of vocabulary. You've got the buildings, los edificios, the places on a college campus. And you've also got talking about where those places are in relation to one another. We're going to start out with los edificios, the buildings. Y para empezar, so turn to this part in your book. Para empezar, yo voy a decir una frase y ustedes van a decir si la frase es cierto o falso. Número 1. En la biblioteca estudio. En la biblioteca estudio. So you've got to know that our new vocabulary word is biblioteca, library, and you've got to remember an old vocabulary word, I study. I study in a library, cierto. Número 2. En la librería compro libros. En la librería compro libros. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Número 3. En el estadio enseño literatura. En el estadio enseño literatura. ¿Cierto o falso? Teaching literature in the stadium, falso. Now, what would I put if I wanted to put something for the estadio that was true? I could say, en el estadio practico deportes. What's that? En el estadio practico deportes. In the stadium, I practice sports. That makes more sense. Número 4. En el centro estudiantil hablo con mis amigos. En el centro estudiantil hablo con mis amigos. ¿Cierto o falso? Student center, talking with friends. Sure, why not? Cierto. Número 5. En el museo miro arte. En el museo miro arte. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Museums, looking at art, logical. Próximo. En el teatro miro un drama. En el teatro miro un drama. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Theater, watching a drama, that's logical. And you might be thinking to yourself, oops, I've caught her with another one of her stupid errors in her typing. It should be una drama. Nope, you're wrong. I actually have that one right. Remember that drama is one of your mapa words that are masculine. Just like mapa is el mapa, it's el drama. Okay. Próximo. En el observatorio miro la luna. En el observatorio miro la luna. Now, the key word here, I know you can tell what observatorio means, even if you're not even looking at your vocabulary list. La luna, on the other hand, maybe you don't know. So I'll give you a hint. La luna is the Spanish word for the moon. So, en el observatorio miro la luna. ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Okay, próximo. En la rectoría hablo con el presidente. Now, there's that typo. Hablo con el presidente de la universidad. En la rectoría Hablo con el presidente de la universidad. Cierto o falso? Cierto, because rectoría is the president's office. Okay, now another word for the wise for the test. This again is how I'm going to test these. I'm going to put in the blank, I do something. And you'll have to fill in the blank with biblioteca or libreria or estadio or something like that. So I suggest studying this page of the lesson and you'll do really well. Okay, let's go on to talking about the relationships of where things are. ¿Dónde está? So we're going to review those things where we say to the left of, to the right of, next to, in front of, behind, stuff like that. So, ¿dónde está la planta? ¿Está a la derecha de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? ¿La planta está a la derecha de la mesa? Falso. That plant is to the left of the table, not to the right. A la derecha, to the right. Nope, it's to the left. Número 2. ¿Cierto o falso? ¿Está a la izquierda de la mesa? ¿La planta está a la izquierda de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. A la izquierda, to the left of the table. Now that one's the truth. Número 3. ¿Está lejos de la mesa? ¿La planta está lejos de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? Falso. Lejos de means far away from. The plant is right next to that table. It is not far away from it, so falso. Número 4. ¿La planta está cerca de la mesa? ¿La planta está cerca de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Cerca de is next to. So that one's true. The plant is next to the table. Y finalmente, próximo. ¿La planta está al lado de la mesa? ¿La planta está al lado de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Al lado is next to. So that one is true. And I think a minute ago I just said cerca is next to. Cerca actually means close to. So lejos, far, cerca, close, al lado, next to. Sorry. Okay, let's go on. Now I've got a lámpara. I bet you can guess that a lámpara is a lamp. ¿Dónde está la lámpara? ¿La lámpara está detrás de la mesa? ¿La lámpara está detrás de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? Falso. Número 2. ¿La lámpara está delante de la mesa? ¿La lámpara está delante de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. Próximo. ¿La lámpara está enfrente de la mesa? ¿La lámpara está enfrente de la mesa? ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. So detrás is behind, delante is in front of, and enfrente de is in front of too. There's really no difference between delante and enfrente de. Okay, one more relationship. ¿Dónde está la planta? ¿La planta está entre la mesa y la lámpara? ¿La planta está entre la mesa y la lámpara? ¿Cierto o falso? Cierto. The plant is now between the lamp and the table. So that's a little review of those. Let's look at how I'm going to test it. If you look at this picture, you've got, reading from the top left across, you've got a biblioteca, an hospital, an estadio, and a libreria. And then going down to the next block, you've got a teatro, apartamentos, and an escuela. Escuela means school, like for little kids. And then you've got a restaurante next to the oceanfront there, or lakefront, whatever. You've got a restaurante and the observatorio. So this is how I'm going to test these words. And this is also your participation points for this lesson. I want you to write 8 sentences describing where things are in the city, and I want you to use a la derecha. That should be a la derecha. That should end in an A. A la derecha. A la izquierda, lejos de, cerca de, al lado de, detrás de, delante or enfrente de, and entre. And then I gave you an example. La biblioteca está lejos del observatorio. So what does that mean? The library is far from the observatory, because they're about as far apart as you can get on this little map. Now, I want to point out one thing to you. Look at the sentence that I gave you as an example. La biblioteca está lejos del observatorio. Lejos de is the expression. You have to use that. And then it's far from, in English we would say the observatory. So you've got to put the word for the in there. Observatory is masculine, so it would be el observatorio. Now, think about how the Spanish talk. They talk really fast, right? So if you have de, de, and then el, el, right next to each other, since de ends in e and el begins in e, they're just going to run those 2 words right together, like they weren't even 2 separate words. So they gave up writing them as 2 separate words. There are very few contractions in Spanish. We've got lots of them in English. Cannot, can't. Do not, don't. They don't do contractions like that in Spanish. There are only 2 contractions, and you're looking at one of them right now. De and el, when they have to go together, the words contract and become one word, del. But if I used a feminine thing, and if I wanted to say la biblioteca is far away from the librería, then I would say la biblioteca está lejos de la librería. Okay? So that is your participation points for this lesson. Write out those 8 sentences, and I'll tell you right now, exactly this is going on the test. The exact same picture, and the instructions are going to say write 8 sentences describing where things are in the city. The only thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to give you the sample words, because that's what I'm testing you on. I want you to come up with those by yourself, and I'm not going to give you an example. So if you can write these, and if you get good feedback on them when I grade your participation points, you'll be ready for that part of the test. And that is it for this lesson.